1504.
All right.
Welcome.
We are now live. Welcome to the green room for DisrupTV. More importantly, I'm here live at South by Southwest with my amazing co-host, Vala Afshar, who's back in town, coming from an awesome event called IRL, and of course, our wonderful producer, Elle. We are with two great guests. I'm going to introduce them in reverse order of appearance. Tell me where you're coming in from real quickly. What are you talking about today? Toby, where are you and what are we talking about?
Great to be here, Ray Vala. Thanks for having me. I'm coming to you from Miami, Florida. I am the author of a book called Anointed. I think we're going to professor at UC Berkeley. I think we're going to talk about the book, but it's going to take us all over the place. So I don't know. You tell me. We'll figure it out.
We will figure it out live in real time. Russell, thanks for joining us. Where are you coming in from? What are we talking about today?
So thanks for having me. I am in sunny England, which is a nice thing to say for once. And just in England, I'm about kind of northwest of London. So delighted to be here.
God, I thought you were going to tell me you were in Eastbourne with the pensioners and it was sunny, but I guess not.
Yeah,
we'll move from
not
there.
so much. And so today we're going to talk about the localization and globalization of this. So looking forward to that discussion.
It's going to be crazy. We are being more local and global at the same time. And of course, AI is ushering that era to us. All right, back to you, Elle, for the count. Are you all ready?
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining DisrupTV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to join us on X at DisrupTV Show. Send Ray, myself, our distinguished guests, your questions live, and we'll do our best to answer them. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host, Ray Wang. He's the CEO, founder of Constellation Research. He's the best-selling author of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I see Ray on TV just about every other day, CNBC, Fox Business, Bloomberg, Yahoo, Finance. He's one of the top futurists to follow on X at RWA and G0. Welcome, Mr. Wang, to DisrupTV.
Thanks a lot. I'm here with my amazing co-host, Vala Afshar, Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce. He's also the author of multiple books, including Boundless and Autonomous. These are #1 sellers on Amazon, and they're the path to the future. And if you haven't seen Vala, he's around everywhere. Check out his inspirational, insightful tweets. And more importantly, when he's not hosting, keynoting, or leading events at Salesforce, you can see him on business TV outlets such as Bloomberg, ABC, and other places. And he's also posting insightful analyses of these conversations on ZDNet. In fact, he's one of the top keynoters in the world. So, but it's not about us. And as we always say, it's about our amazing guests, and we've got a lot of them. But we've got two today, really special. Who are we talking to today? What are we kicking off with?
It's always a privilege for you and I to be able to learn from CEOs, exceptional CEOs. And our first guest, Russell Haworth, is CEO of Acclaro. Acclaro is a trusted localization partner to the world's largest brands. Acclaro combines cultural and language expertise with AI technology to help brands grow their global presence, connect with customers, and mean something to them. Russell is a technology-focused CEO with a proven track record of growing businesses with new products, new markets. His specialism is optimizing the intersection of data and cloud and machine learning for SaaS products. Russell has a successful track record of growing businesses across multiple sectors, ranging from fintech to cybersecurity, by again leveraging software, information, and data analytics. Beyond his day job, he's a non-executive board member, advisor to a number of tech industry firms. He's an author Thoughts from the Big Chair is a step-by-step guide for digital transformation, giving subject matter experts advice and insights gathered from 20 plus years career, and again, a career as a CEO. Russ frequently speaks on topics of AI, internet safety, as parent of children. We both appreciate that, and business leadership. Welcome, Russell, to DisrupTV.
Yeah, delighted to be here, and you know, in the esteemed company of very well-established authors and thought leaders. So yeah, great to be here.
Thank you, sir.
What's amazing, you met both criteria. That's why you're here. But more importantly, we're talking about a very interesting world and global outlook, which you're sitting in the middle of today. It's the mix between globalization, where we were trying to get everyone together, to this more personalized, more intimate, I'd say, fragmentation that's going on as well at the same time, as people are trying to get back to something that is much more meaningful to them. So when you look at this, how should CEOs rethink this world in terms of fragmented, regulated, geopolitically complex? How do we simplify it? How do we go forward? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think certainly from the origins of Acclaro, which was started out to be and it is today a translation business, but actually I'm trying to reframe the conversation in a way, which is around CEOs of any business, but particularly kind of tech-oriented businesses, should be thinking about how global expansion used to be a very kind of sequential process, but now it's simultaneous, right? We are 10 years ago, you looked at launching in the US, and then you prove your business model there, and you translate later, and then you enter new markets relatively on a linear basis, and relatively cautiously and slowly. And that model no longer works, right? So today, I would say winners are companies that are designed to be born global, can leverage their technology and the way that they're thinking about UX design and product design, and incorporating that at the very early stages, anticipating that they're going to go into other markets that are non-English.
Russell,
And
you're saying we cannot afford not to be global by design.
I think that's true. I mean, I think, you know, I've grown up and lived in lots of international locations, so I kind of think about globalization just naturally. But I'm sure there are lots of organizations that are very focused on their source market and have tried to crack the code of source market and expansion in that. What I would argue is that the winners are those companies that are thinking more broadly and looking about how they can increase their global surface area. And that global surface area is now being accelerated by the views of many by the application of AI. And so, you know, when I think about AI and how that's having an impact on organizations, sure, there's opportunities to improve the cost base and reduce costs, but it's kind of missing the bigger picture, which is you should be thinking, how can I, as a CEO of a business, look to internationalize, look to increase my global service area? And you know, when we think about the language gap, it's not just been closed; it's been erased, right, over the course of the last couple of years, and is being erased increasingly so. So when I've got an AI product or a product that I want to think about internationalizing, if you've got something that works in Chicago, there's no reason why it shouldn't be working in Cairo or Seoul or Mexico City, right? There's real opportunities here to think about how we reframe the product and the go-to-market. And the only thing that's standing in the way of boards and CEOs of how to increase their global surface area is around the application of AI in terms of not just translation, but actually cultural resonance of how you take your global brand and make it resonate for customers in their market. And so that's what we're trying to focus on, which is localization is no longer a translation function. It's a market access strategy. And done well, it's really powerful. Done badly, then it's a lot of money wasted. And trying to optimize the intersect between the two about global markets and thinking about how you can expand into markets simultaneously is really important. But it's moved on so quickly that if I am a CEO of a business or on the board of a business, I would be asking, why the heck are we not looking for international growth beyond the US market, let's say? And that needs to be done well, but it's ultimately possible. But it's not a thing that you can just do by assuming you can just translate. It's an immersive, quite a complex experience, but it can be done simultaneously and have a very big impact on revenue, and what I'll call the kind of revenue force multiplier.
You mentioned several times that you can't take a simplistic view of it as just translation. Is that what most leaders grossly underestimate? They view it as just a translation exercise, and they miss that cultural element, that emotive element, the fact that people only hear what they understand, and this deep understanding that goes into global expansion. Why do people do it poorly? What is it that what is it that leaders underestimate?
Well, I think there's two things. One of which is they do it at the end of the process, right? So
Okay.
if I'm thinking about a product, any SaaS product, right? We build it in the US, it grows domestically, and we go, great. Let's go global. And then localization becomes a retrofit. What we should be thinking about is, how does localization start and how does global growth start at the software and UX design phase? So when I'm thinking about a SaaS product for English markets, that's fine. But then when I'm thinking about translating that into German and trying to think about the German go-to-market principles, well, the UX layouts get really hard to deal with it unless you thought about that at the start of your UX design. Your payments methods may differ and not match local markets. Your regulatory elements may differ across different markets, and the customer support isn't multilingual. And if you're not doing customer support on a multilingual basis, you don't have a translation problem, you've got a churn problem, because people really think about, is this a company that I want to engage with? Are they resonating with me? And do they understand what I want as a customer? And do I trust them? And so that resonance is about more of, how do we take the language and the go-to-market and the cultural resonance, but not just on sales, but across the entire life cycle of customers.
You're right. You're absolutely right here, Russell. And I think one of the big pieces that's happening in the marketplace, it's not just the translation, it's not the localization, it's a cultural understanding that you got to have, right? And you're going deeper into that conversation about what that cultural understanding should be. My question to you is, where do you start? You might not even have the network. You might not even know how to begin. This is more than just the technical aspects when you jump into market. Like, the Americans might think Europe is one big market, but it really isn't. Just like Europeans might think America is one big market, it really isn't, because when we get to the nuances of each company and where you got to go, it's very different. There's customs, there's business practices. Do you get into all that when you help companies enter those markets?
We're at the beginning areas of that as we start to pivot our business model from being a translation business to more of what I would call localization business, which is around, how do we help you localize your organization, your go-to-market strategies, and more importantly, how do we make sure that you are not just putting content in the market in multimodal formats? Obviously, think about 5 years ago versus where we are today, which is there's an incredible area of media that you need to cover as a brand. And how do I know that my interpretation? So if you think about it like this, if you said, well, actually, it was just about translation, and I'm going from the US into German and into Spain, well, if my social media campaign is really going well in Germany, but it's lousy in Spain, like, why? Well, you need to have feedback loops on that. And what we're missing is this whole element of feedback. Well, actually, are you targeting the right segments? Are you getting the right resonance with people, not just in Germany between East Germany and West Germany, but the cultural differences of are they an age bracket of 18 to 25, or are they looking at a social demographic category of X or Y? This is hyper-localization, and this is how the future of content needs to be adapted, not just in English, which is hard in English, right? But trying to do that in multiple markets simultaneously and get the feedback to know what's working or what's not starts to become the complication of how you have a successful investment in scaling your business. But it is one of the quickest ways. If you've got a reliable product and you can support that from an English perspective, internationalizing that has got to be one of the ways of any board to look at this and say, crikey, like, which markets should we be in, why, and how do we make sure we're resonating in those markets with our content? And that's what we're trying to help clients with more and more.
Super important. You talk about hyper localization, hyper personalization. This is, of course, happening at speed and scale, unlike anything we've experienced in the past, because most modern companies, certainly technology, certainly SaaS-oriented companies, have an agentic layer. There's a hybrid workforce where there's people and AIs doing a lot of this work. And as a CEO, so there's this balance in terms of optimizing cost and increasing efficiency and impact. As a CEO, give us advice in terms of how should leaders draw a line between leveraging powerful emerging technologies like machine learning so they can drive efficiency, and then a precision, hyper personalization, segmentation, with human linguistic and cultural expertise. How do you maintain that balance so you have that soulfulness that we don't want to lose as we hyper automate, which is an inevitability in the space, at least that I'm in?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I wish I had the exact answer, but I'll give you some thoughts on that, which is and particularly in our area, right, where AI is coming and it's coming fast on translation. So, people in our organization, and I'm sure every organization that's in translation, the question is, well, what does that mean for me and my job and my role in the future? And my answer to that is that AI should be doing the volume, right? Let's focus AI on what it's really good at right now, which is doing the volume, and then let the humans do the nuance. Now, of course, there's elements where the humans can scale as well, but let's play to our advantage, right? AI is really good at scale and volume. Humans are really good at really understanding the nuance of markets. And so I don't look at this as being an AI replacing humans. I think it actually working together, you can start to think about how we can bring the humans in to make sure that we're augmenting the AI and getting the best of this for our customers. And so, when I think about where the evolution of this is for customers, I think actually for us at least, thinking about translators and then they could potentially move into model trainers, and then the cultural editors of making sure that, so if I'm launching a campaign in Japan, I probably want to know that I've got somebody who's a human looking at my deployment and A/B testing that in the market, but actually looking at how not just my text, but my multimodal content through social media and graphics and images are also being culturally appropriate for that specific segment of the market that I'm after. And whilst AI is really clever, I personally want to make sure that I've got humans in the loop
Russell,
to make sure
you're
that,
so right? I mean, especially in countries like Japan, where you could have a feminine tense in a masculine set of words, right? I mean, just getting that correct, and then understanding what class level you're speaking in Japan is also highly nuanced, right? And you have the Tokyo versus Osaka rivalry, depending what you're trying to get to, right? I mean, it's that type of nuance that actually brings
Madrid
to
and
life.
Barcelona.
Yeah, and Madrid and Barcelona, like Catalan and like everywhere else.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
that's right. Yeah,
I
it
mean,
could be
we're
vastly
talking
different.
about, like,
I always joke about this because, like, you think about Britain, and then you think, well, how you market to Welsh people or Scottish people
yes,
or English people is
Right.
very different, right? And
Right.
so, and then
Right.
that's a very simplistic level, but then you market that, and that's in English, right? So,
Right.
so you've got to start
well,
thinking
I
about
mean,
this.
in America, you got the same thing, right? We got regional differences, right? I mean,
You
Northern
definitely
California,
do.
Southern California, Boston,
Right.
New York. I mean, interesting rivalries down to that level. But hey, let's take it down one more. What's the one investment CEOs can make now to ensure they scale successfully? You got like 3 minutes. Think about like what are things they got to take action now to get started?
So it's easy for me to say, but I think a global mindset. So start thinking global. Start thinking, how do we optimize our business? Where's the next billion digital customers coming from? So when I look at the marketplace, am I thinking about is my market Indonesia, India, Brazil, Nigeria? Where is that? But then once I've decided where that opportunity and the market is, making sure that language and the media engagement campaign is highly appropriate for that market. And so, there's lots of stats around these sort of areas, but when it comes to localize effectively, engagement increases 6x, because
6x. Wow.
there's really and conversion rates dramatically increase. So, thinking about global, but doing it in a way that is not just, hey, listen, I'll just get an AI engine and we'll throw all of our content at the AI engine and, we'll be done. It's a really strategic investment and one that shouldn't be taken lightly. I think, making sure that we've got the AI localization infrastructure done, the multilingual content workflows, we're being culturally sensitive and adaptive. But the biggest area I think is there's really huge opportunities in globalization. It's really easy to stick to your source market, but I would advocate that there are really good opportunities to go international. It's just a case of doing it in a really responsible way.
Got it. Be thoughtful, be precise about how you do global expansion, and of course, think beside your home market. We're here with Russell Haworth, CEO of Acclaro, more importantly, an author, CEO, and of course, thought leader. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Russell.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Cheers. Great advice. And it is usually an afterthought. I've worked for plenty of private equity and, companies that didn't really think about at the beginning of the process the importance of globalization.
It can't be an afterthought.
We're privileged to have extraordinary authors on our show, and our next guest is Toby Stuart, author of Anointed, The Extraordinary Effects of Social Status in a Winner-Take-Most World. I really should have read this book a long time ago. This book, just came out last year, but as I'm going through it, extraordinary lessons. Toby is the Leo Helsel Distinguished Professor of Business at Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley. Toby's Faculty Director of Berkeley Haas Entrepreneurship Program and Faculty Director of the Institute for Business Innovation and Distinguished Teaching Fellow. Previously, Toby held professorships at Harvard University, Columbia, and University of Chicago. Toby is also co-founder of a tech company and on multiple corporate boards. He has published dozens of academic papers on social status and social networking dynamics. Toby was also a longtime department editor of the Entrepreneurship Innovation at Management Science and has been editor at many prominent journals, including American Journal of Sociology and Administrative Science Quarterly. Welcome, Toby, to DisrupTV, and congratulations on your book.
Thanks, guys. Great to be here.
Toby, this is a very important question, and more importantly, you've put this book out. Why now? Why this topic? Why do people not realize this is happening? What inspired you to write this book on Anointed?
Yeah, let me answer that in a couple of ways. One is like, we already have we're gonna go all over the place with this, but I mean, I think one thing about writing a book is it isn't why now, because the book was actually written quite some time ago, and there is it's a process, right? It's a hike to get one of these things done. So I actually for the first time I decided to write the book during COVID. And the actual why had as much to do with life as it did with the content. I was actually walking on the beach one day and the title popped into my head, and I thought, the world's got a lot slower. I should take this on. I thought about it many times over the years, and the issue was, how do you carve out half a year or something like that? Like it's incredibly time consuming to write a book. The topic, I mean, I felt like at the time I was either going to write a book on venture capital, tech, and entrepreneurship, or I was going to go back to my roots and write about the kind of the things that got me animated and interested in becoming an academic in the first place. And so I did, I don't know, I mean, maybe it was because of COVID, it was the latter. So I think status dynamics are timeless. I mean, so the subject matter in the book, it sort of spans the history of humanity, and there's a million like fascinating dynamics surrounding how it will play out in the bizarre world that we're about to enter. And it's funny because I answer the question like it's hard to write a book, and I already have to say it was hard to write a book. I mean, like it's.
We've both been there. It is brutal.
I don't understand the world when Claude can write a book in 3 minutes, but that is the new world. So
that is the new world.
But let's go to your point. If Claude wrote the book as the Who, would you trust it?
That's let's pick that one up as we go on to it. I mean, trust in AI. Don't get me started. I mean, don't get me started about anything in AI. Right? That's what we're going to talk about, and everybody in your audience is sick of it. So
when I think about status, I think about building competence so you can add value. So there's an element of doing something well where people take notice of the quality and craftsmanship and then perhaps being courageous enough to not always follow but maybe lead. Don't be a cook, be a chef. Don't just follow other people's recipes. Perhaps taste different ingredients and create a delicious meal that's perhaps unique, where you may be given an opportunity to be in the front, not in the back. And then just be nice, be kind, be generous. And in combination of, and I think like my co-host, I spent every Friday with Ray for 10 years. He's super competent. He's a nice guy, and he's generous with his time. So he's one of the top futurists in the world. So how do you build status? Like, what are the ingredients you need to get anointed?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm kind of with you on 2 of the 3 anyways. The third one.
Okay, all right.
The third one is.
Well, you're the expert, so yeah.
I'll just say there is actually something to the old adage: the nice guys finish last. So.
Okay. Well, Michael Bell said, "Play to win, but play fair." Yeah.
It's okay. We try. We plan for another day.
Yeah, I mean, there's like. So the book really gets into this, like, where does status come from? And you hit on a couple of things. Like, I mean, so status is always a byproduct of a social system. Like the social systems that we're in, they've evolved over time. They value different things. And the high status actors in any group tend to be high status in the context of what the group values. I mean, so I think, Vala, you're kind of making sort of broad societal references. And so where does status come from? Well, one is you're really, really good at something, and that is appreciated by the audience that you're in. And that's how we think about kind of earned or achieved status, where it's like, that's probably the closest we get to merit. Merit's an incredibly complicated even concept, so we can dive into that if you want. But achieve status, like I'm really good at something, I work really hard at it. The group values what I do, and I acquire status that way. Now, the sort of caveat to throw out there is that groups value different things, right? So, I mean, so you literally can think of like, you know, how do I get status kind of at Salesforce, or as an influencer, or then how do I get status as a member of like a violent street gang, you know, in sort of some part of the world, right? And you can imagine that like these are very different things you have to do to demonstrate merit across these contexts. But let's say number one is you contribute something that's valued by a group. Number two, which you also hit at, is like, so you, I think you sort of, you alluded to the chef versus the cook. And I'll just generalize that and say that occupations are super different in terms of like how much status we ascribe to them. So like, you know, historically, you know, it's like doctor or engineer, professor, scientist, or whatever, and then chef versus cook. So there's some kind of occupational hierarchy. You know, once again, not fully stable across all times and places, but we have a rough sense for it in any given society. A third of it, another piece of it is being nice. That's a super local version of status. Like I'm in a small group. The small group values people who are nice, and so there is a sort of a respect or an esteem that goes to the people who are nice. But then there's a couple of other things that maybe people, you know, don't think about as much. So one, which the book gets into a lot, is what sociologists call ascribed status. And sort of ascribed characteristics are all characteristics that you're born with. And you can't do much to change. I mean, you know, these days everything's changeable, but like for all of human history, you can't do much to change. So, you know, your complexion, your race, you know, the religion you're born into, your height, your gender, you know, some version of physical attractiveness, like all of these
things you didn't choose, things you didn't choose,
things that were like, and this is and that's great, Vala, because if you don't choose it, then, you know, then sorting people into hierarchies based on things we don't choose, and things that are independent of our work and our effort, is what we would think of as non-meritocratic ways of putting people into groups. And that's a whole lot of it. So in all societies, in all places, there's a hierarchy of gender, there's a hierarchy of race, there's a hierarchy of religious affiliation, sexual orientation, like you name it. And so status is also a byproduct of those things. And then the book really gets into a lot. Status is also, I call it kinetic, like it moves around a lot, right? And suppose you were building something like some concept called like DisrupTV. Like suppose that, what do you think of that?
I love that. Yeah.
We've heard about it.
Yeah. So then, I mean, like, so if you're going to develop if you're going to develop something like DisrupTV that does what you do, then what is the sort of the status of the program? Well, the status of the program depends on the status of the host, and the status of the host depends on the status of the guests. But then the guests also benefit from being on the show, for the affiliation with the show. And then you're in this kind of, hopefully, I mean, you're trying to create a positive kind of virtuous cycle, you know, and it's like, so this is life everywhere. It's like, you know, is the restaurant hot because the people are hot? Well, the people are hot because the restaurant's hot, but, you know, and on you go, and the club and the university and you name it. So
I want to follow up with just the nice part, because, you know, Adam Grant endorsed your book. And when I think of Adam Grant, the first thing I think about is, you know, giving and taking. There are givers and there are takers. So, and I'm a father of 3. So if I want to give advice to my children so that they can be in a position to get anointed, is it my advice to them? Lead a life, lead a recommendable life. Lead your life in a way where your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Lead a life where when you're not in the room, people are recommending you and talking positively about you, which is not necessarily meritocracy, but a way of living. Is that not? Yeah.
I mean, do that, Vala, but not so that they become anointed, right? Do that because, you know, you want to, I mean, let's kind of separate the status hierarchy, a lot of which, you know, can be, you know, sketchy. It can be like, you know, there's like conflicting motives. There's a lot of unearned status. There are a lot of people who do things that are in fact, I would make the argument that all of us habitually do things that are disingenuous to gain status. We're going to talk about that in a second. But I would say, I love your advice to your kids. Like, I'm not going to tell you to change that. And I wouldn't tell you to prioritize kind of, you know, status seeking as the dimension of, you know, parenthood that you want to pass along. And I don't mean that to in any way undermine the importance of the book I just wrote. I mean, they're going to intuitively be status seekers regardless. And so sometimes I think as parents, our role is to actually, you know, reinforce and emphasize the things that we think are going to, you know, create responsible, you know, healthy, happy adults who make positive contributions to society. And, you know, the more that you do, the more you win as a parent. But, you know, so I wouldn't do it with Anointed as the outcome, but I love the advice you're giving to your kids. Keep it up.
Okay, so does AI change the pecking order then? Does it completely swap that out? Do we need gurus, experts, people who are higher up in the social status to tell us what to do, what to read, how to learn? Like, how to even think?
I mean, so I think, in fact, I'm writing, the next book is about this, in case you wanted to invite me back.
We will.
But that would be in a world that's like 2 years ahead. And it's at the moment very hard to imagine what the world 2 years from now actually is going to look like with respect to all things, including what we're doing right here. But you know, but I come to this with the view that AI is going to impact nearly everything about nearly everything. And for sure, it's going to impact the status ordering and the effects of status. And I think it's going to do it very dynamically. That is like, I mean, I sort of think about these things as, you know, I'm actually in the middle of an editorial that says like the impossible thing about AI is that it actually is making it impossible to see more than 24 months into the future. And that if you think about that, that creates like that in itself is the most astonishingly, like it's an astonishingly important problem. So that in itself, but I think what the effect of AI on the outcomes we care about and on how the world works is going to kind of evolve quickly because it's going to move quickly, but things are going to change over the next bunch of months and years. So what does status do? I mean, the effect of status in the world at large is it allows us to make decisions. And so what do I mean by that? I mean we have we have such, particularly in the modern world, we have such an overabundance of choice. And we need to get from that to how we're going to spend our resources and our time. And the book gets into this at length, but the status system does a ton to kind of direct us from these sort of wide funnel of things we might consider down to a narrow funnel of what we do. So it does that. And the second thing it does, which it's vital for, is it helps us make decisions when we're uncertain. Okay, and decisions when we're uncertain are like most decisions. So because now I'm going to put myself into like I'm the co-founder of a tech company, which I am. So now I'm thinking about like what investor do I want to take capital from? Who do I want to hire like as sort of early joiners to the company? Who do I want to partner with? Who do I need for reference accounts? Like all of these are like status signals, right? I mean, you know, you want Sequoia or you want Andreessen or you want Benchmark because it says something, you know, about you to the world. You want to hire, you know, you want to hire the kid with the MIT and the Caltech degree to be, you know, to join your Eng team, right? And you know, these are decisions where like we don't actually know who the best investor is going to be a priori ahead of time, and we don't know what hire is going to work out. So we look for kind of indirect signals of what those that will predict those outcomes, and those are always status signals, and they drive decision making everywhere. And by everywhere, I mean like everywhere. Like it's actually hard almost to think of decision-making contexts where they don't play some role. And so AI is going to change all of that. And it's going to change it in two ways. One is, I think there's a very good chance it's going to make the decision less important. Like many decisions are going to become less important in the sense of like the human contribution to work and to outcomes will probably shrink as the systems get better and better and better and smarter and smarter and smarter. And so then the sort of the pedigree of the person maybe matters a lot less, but that's a longer term outcome. In the shorter term, I think we have very little to rely on but pedigree now. I mean, and so I would imagine, like I've written about this, I've been editorializing about this all over the place, but I mean, like it's impossible to be a university professor right now because like, how do you grade students? Like, you know, I mean, like I feel like if I ever asked, I mean, I have a strict like I don't grade students. I refuse to now because I don't believe I can actually evaluate any longer. So, you know, like Claude is smarter than me. The work that it produces is better than the work that I produce. And there's not a lot of skill in the prompt. So like, how do you evaluate work output right now? Well, that's super hard. But if you can't evaluate, so if you're a college admissions officer, like, you know, the essay doesn't tell you anything. I'm not sure the transcript tells you anything, right? And so we're going to look for other signals in that world.
No, but I'm anointed.
Yeah. So things are going to get weird, super weird.
It is. I live with 3 digital natives, at 15, 20, and 23. I'm a digital immigrant. I wasn't born mobile, social, cloud, data-driven, but I see my children, you know, they talk to AIs to figure out where to shop, where to eat, where to go on vacation. It's not traditional search. They have their favorite agents and models, but it could be Gemini, it could be Claude, it could be ChatGPT, it could be, for me, it's like Slack at my company. I'm an active daily multi-user of agents now because it's
wild.
It's unfair. Like when I prepare for a customer meeting and I use my own Jarvis, it provides me far better contextual understanding of the client, the market, how we need to connect than any of my colleagues. And I don't mean to say that in a disparaging way. It's not even a fair race. It's just not. I can't believe I'm publicly saying this, but
let's not go here, Vala, because you're a Salesforce employee, and I run the Workday AI board. So let's let's think about agents on top of SaaS, or agents that go beneath SaaS platforms. To do, but there's no doubt about it. It's a new world, and we don't understand it. And the effects of it are going to be beyond anything we've ever seen before in human history, and they're going to start. It's like we're in this. I think we're definitely the final days of the calm before the storm. Is how I see it. Like things are
the last days of human judgment.
Yeah, last days where like the world makes sense and things are going to get and things are going to get interesting. So,
as someone who's had incredible benefit with, I don't want to call it emerging technology, but I've been active on social for a decade. So when I wrote my previous book, I didn't have a publicist, I didn't have an agent, I didn't have anybody, really just worked with my publisher Wiley. Then the book was ready. I went on X and I said, I wrote a book, I hope you enjoy it. 22 million impressions and a bestseller for many, many months, because I wasn't anointed, but I had 1 million followers on social media that elevated the book. It was like a decentralized anointment. I don't know how to describe it, but the fact that you shared for 10 years and then you I guess I made an ask. I said, here's a book, please read it. And it allowed me to skip all the traditional ways of bringing a book to market.
But you are anointed. It's just, and this is the thing. So you're anointed inside of worlds, right? So in, you know, a million X followers or Twitter followers, whatever it's called, you know, that's a lot, right? I mean, that puts you up into that is like, and what is the currency on those platforms? The currency is followerships and, you know, and likes and loves and reposts, and so those are the currencies of status, right? And as you know, in those worlds, I mean, what's interesting about them is, you know, to go back to nice, like those worlds are, you can get there by being nice, but it's hard. Like nice is the hard path. A lot of followers in the social media world.
Is that what you're? Is that what?
Nice.
Are you alluding to what Tom Peters? Tom Peters was on our show a number of times, author of In Search of Excellence, and he said soft skills are the hard skills. Soft skills are the ones that are hard to develop and to demonstrate. And again, we've talked. You know, you've given us great guidance in terms of. And I'm not sure. I'm not. Is meritocracy real? Is meritocracy real?
Is meritocracy dead?
Yeah, I mean, let me come back to that in a minute. But like, but you know, Vala, to your sort of personal biography, you know, I mean, the reality of book publishing is the book publisher stopped promoting books ages ago. So, so they can't do it themselves. So what are they looking for? They're looking for people with currency in some other world. And you have currency in a world, and that you have the ability, you know, which is new in human history. No one had reach like that, like you can potentially have today on a global social media platform. But you spent a long time building that recognition, and you invested a lot in it. And you know, and it is, like, to use an old expression, it's the coinage of the realm. I mean, the realms are different, right? So if you live in the academic world like I do, you know, historically, like your social media accounts, like don't touch them. Change, but like that's, if anything. But when you're like a thought leader or an influencer, kind of in the general public, you're actually very high status. You are anointed. You have 1 million followers on LinkedIn, and in fact, I just like looked out and tried to get you to be a friend on LinkedIn because you have all these followers. So, you know, there you go. Okay, is the world a meritocracy?
I just got anointed by the OG of Anointed. I feel good. I'm honest. I feel good. I really feel good.
And I'll feel good if you accept, which you know, which
100%. Are you kidding me? You had me at hello.
I mean, it's the entitlement of the high status to snub the people who request their company. Is the world a meritocracy? No, I mean, definitely not. Does it have elements of meritocracy? Absolutely. Like I hope so. I mean, but this notion that that like we're all born with equal footing and that all it takes is hard work, that's empirically just not true. So, which isn't to say, you know, like everybody who's listening to this knows someone who kind of like, you know, sort of arrived in shitty circumstances and worked their way out of them. And, you know, hats off to those people. But that isn't I mean, the kind of all of the sort of macro data suggests that if you're born to shitty circumstances, it's kind of where you stay, right? And it isn't because you're indifferent to, you know, what happens in the world or you're content with that. It's just, right. And, you know, what I would say is, compared to historical times, yes, it's like highly meritocratic, right? I mean, like back in the day, you know, I'm reading a sort of an old book about, you know, about kind of medieval times. And back in the day, you know, if you're a serf, you're a serf. Like, end the story. Like, done. Like, you are what you are. You are what you were born to. That is no longer strictly true, but it's also far from untrue.
Wow, we're seeing the shift. You're living in the middle of it. We're all trying to figure out what's next. I think you've got a better clarity here than most folks do. I do want to hit one more thing real quick, really. You talk about the fact that, you know, we're in a big shift, right? It's competence confusion, cumulative advantage, status dynamics, and the math you expect effect. What happens to the average individual when this all hits?
Yeah, so that's all about, so that part of the book is about this kind of self-reinforcing dynamic that status often has. And so I've kind of, I live a pretty diverse work life, and lately, for like just a completely random reason, I've been doing some things in the art world, and I appreciate art, but I'm untrained. So, and the art market, like I think sometimes I find the art market more interesting than the art itself. The art market is just this fascinating, all cultural markets are fascinating.
Come on, I bought the Thomas Kincaid on the cruise. Come on.
Yeah, well, so I mean, so and the sort of the book actually opens with an art story, and it gets to the kind of the heart of what the anointment dynamic is. So the opening story of the book is about a guy who's like flipping. I mean, I'll make it quick, but he's flipping through an art catalog. He sees a painting for sale. It's for sale for like £25,000 or something like that. It's an auction in the UK. He looks at the painting and he thinks, it turns out, so he's like one of the world's leading experts in Rembrandt. And he looks at the painting and he's like, almost has like deja vu. Like he thinks he's seen it before, but he hasn't, because he's seen, and he thinks it's a Rembrandt, but he's seen all 354 Rembrandts. Like he knows them like in and out. He owns some of them. So he looks at this and he's like, this is a Rembrandt, but it's attributed to a disciple of Rembrandt. And so if it's a disciple of Rembrandt, the painting's worth £25,000. If it's Rembrandt's painting, it's worth, I don't know what, $50–100 million. Like it's like the difference is like it's a large gap.
A lot of zeros on that one.
But that kind of sets up the central thought experiment. And the central thought experiment is like, so you have, I mean, what's clear about this situation and what's fascinating about it is there is one painting only. Like there's a painting. The question is it a Rembrandt or not? But regardless, there is just one painting. Like everything about it's the same. But if you shift the identity state, right, that same painting is worth like, 1,000 times more, even though it's the same damn thing. So in more or less degrees, this is true everywhere. Like an idea in a workplace is worth more if its sponsor is a high status person. It's automatically a better idea if the like high status person is behind the idea. A bottle of wine is better if it's a Screaming Eagle or a Grace Family or a Rothschild or or exactly. So or Harlem. It's all of those are like like superstar logos, and so the wine is worth more. But then these things have this way of becoming self-reinforcing, right? Because if you knew the artist but can't evaluate the product, because maybe you're not a wine expert, so you can't really tell the difference between a Harlan cab and a $2 Chuck. But if it's a Harlan, then you're like, oh my God, it's like amazing. And so you create this self-fulfilling circle where something is good because it's made or sponsored by a high status person, and then that contributes to their status, which contributes to their ability to have you perceive a product to be great. And all you need for that equation to work is you need you to be unable to evaluate the product itself, right? Which is another way that AI is going to come into all of this, because we're all going to have, I mean, it's clear, right? I mean, we saw it from OpenClaw, but but we're months away from we're all going to have some kind of agent working on our behalf. So the whole weirdness of agentic commerce is coming. And when that comes, that is going to radically change status dynamics and brand dynamics in markets.
Absolutely. We processed $1.3 trillion through our Commerce Cloud in the month of November and December. 262 billion, almost 1 in 4 of it was agentic influenced and processed. The largest percentage we've ever seen. 1 in 4 that went through our Commerce Cloud was processed through agent interaction. No human agent interaction with the buyer. It's
the agents are
stunning.
gonna have status too, man.
It's
So we're gonna see like who hangs out with which agents, who connects more with which agents,
I mean,
which agents are more influential. We're gonna play the same math. So
I mean, it's so funny because there's literally already this sort of group of computational social scientists like me who study like social interactions and status. Like everybody's already trying to model out how agents are behaving, how your claw lobster is behaving and like agentic meeting boards. So
I just spoke to a founder of an MIT launched startup where their value prop is assigning personalities to agents that best reflect who you are. And just the gender difference, when you just by knowing you're speaking to a male or female human, just adjusting the gender saw significant. There are a couple of white papers coming out from MIT in the next couple of months. Personalities of agents.
I think I know exactly who you're talking about. But.
Yes, I'm sure you know. I'm sure he's a very prominent founder. Yeah.
It's a very small world. Well, hey, look, Toby, this has been great. Toby Stuart, author of Anointed, The Extraordinary Effects of Social Status in a Winner-Take-Most World. Get the book on Amazon. Definitely a lot of deep discussions. Every chapter super insightful, great examples, and of course, helping you get caught up to speed on what's really going on around you. So thanks for being on the show. We'd love to have you back. So
I'd love to. Totally. I'd love to come back. It was really fun, guys. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Get the book. Get the book. There you go.
Really incredible read.
See him in the green room too afterwards.
Incredible read. I can't wait for his next book because it's myth busting and also challenging dominant logic in terms of how you can be anointed. Ray, do us a favor and give us a 60-second recap of today's show, which was episode 431. As you know, we crossed 1,500 interviews. It took us 10 years to get to 1,500, but we did cross that milestone.
Yeah, we're finally here. Russell Haworth, CEO of Acclaro, basically started by talking about the state of globalization. And I think organizations that are just doing translation, that's not even close. You have to have a thought process behind it. You want to do globalization by design for it and get that in a way where it's culturally appropriate and, of course, effective. We then jumped to Toby Stuart, author of Anointed. And I think it's really fascinating when you think about how people focus on the who, not the what or not the why as much, and that power in itself of grabbing status, whether it's work, life, or friend groups, really pulls out how people make decisions or get confused about making objective decisions, which rose us to the question of whether there's really meritocracy or not, and really what status dynamics are and how you can then anoint people and replace merit. I think that was kind of pretty interesting. We didn't go deep enough. I think we probably could have gone for a couple hours trying to think about how people actually, manipulate anointment, look at anointment, come into it. But I think you have to read the book first to be able to have that baseline. And of course, definitely a wonderful way to start your Friday and weekend blogs and weekend podcast listening. So
I'll tell you, we didn't even get through half the questions we had for Toby.
Not even close.
But it's fascinating topic, fascinating book. We're not going to have a show next week. Mostly because, we're not. I'm traveling to Europe, and Ray has one of the most significant events in the history of Constellation, perhaps next week, with the most powerful men and women. I won't say anything about it, but anyway.
No. We have 100 public CEOs and board of directors at a secret location, and we will on a secret date, and we'll see what happens.
You're probably not going to hear much about it because it is a very incredibly important event with folks that are going to be radically transparent, sharing best practices and vision of what tomorrow may be. But anyway, we will not have a show next week, but we will come back the following week, so the 27th. And when we come back, we'll have Marcus Fontoura. He's an author of Human Agency in a Digital World. Everyone universally is thinking about agency. Do we have control of our destiny in the future. That's my definition of agency. And then Rebecca Fannin, author of The New Tech Titans of China. Let's broaden our horizon and understand that innovation exists not just here, but across the pond. And so we're going to learn about innovation and the titans of industries in China. So two incredible authors. We will reconvene in 2 weeks, and gives you time to recommend guests you want to see on our show. Please send our producer ourselves. You can connect to us on X and LinkedIn. You can drop us an email. You can go to DisrupTV homepage and find out who our guests are. Again, we are booked for the next several months, but we're really open to our audience giving us feedback, who you want to see on the show. If it's Friday, it's DisrupTV. See you in 2 weeks.
Take care, everyone.